The timing is no accident. Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon said over the weekend that climate activists are right, and backed calls to declare a climate emergency. The British Shale Gas Commissioner, once dubbed the fracking czar as the country debated opening up to the hydraulic fracturing drilling that wrought an American oil and gas boom, quit last week. And this Thursday, the UK's Committee on Climate Change, an independent body set up under the 2008 Climate Change Act, is set to release a report to Parliament outlining what it would take to achieve net zero emissions at the pace scientists at the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change said last year is required to avert catastrophe. The decade of austerity the ruling Conservative Party imposed is making the goals impossible to meet, Labour officials argue. The government's Clean Growth Strategy set the first legally binding climate targets in 2017, but environmentalists said it was too little too late even then. Now revelations that Prime Minister Theresa May's government spent just £7.7 million, or nearly $10 million, of the £100 million allocated to cleaning up air pollution are fueling fierce criticism of the Tories as they navigate the disastrous Brexit process. Britain started the era of coal, he said. We have a huge responsibility in this. We recognize that. We have a rockets and feather scenario, he said. As wholesale prices go up, the retail price rockets up. But when the wholesale price goes down, retail price goes down like a feather. As Labour's politics have shifted leftward over the past decade, so too has the climate movement itself. The Extinction Rebellion, a dispersed global movement that hit its stride in the UK last year, is calling for sweeping rallies, die-in protests and disruptions of key infrastructure to raise awareness of the threat of climate change. School strikes for climate change, led by the Swedish teenager Greta Thunberg, are spreading around the world as young people accuse sitting politicians of failing to preserve a safe climate for them. In the United States, the youth-led Sunrise Movement vaulted the Green New Deal into the national dialogue with a series of sit-in protests in Democratic leaders' offices. Labour's plan extends beyond winning support at home. Gardner said the party plans to make a bid to host the UN's 26th conference of the parties next year. The annual gathering, set to be held this December in Chile, is where world leaders negotiate a global plan to cut emissions and deal with climate change. The 2020 summit is set to be the most pivotal since 2015, when the United States and China signed on to the Paris Agreement. The accords, which President Donald Trump has promised to quit when the first legal window to do so opens in November 2020, are up for renegotiation that year. Next year is an absolutely critical moment in the history of climate change, because we need to revise those promises we made and make sure those emission reductions will not only meet them but go much, much further, Gardner said. We want to host the conference in order to do that, and we have to be practicing what we are encouraging others to do.